Hi, welcome back to Health Talk with Dr. Akram. Today we're going to talk again. It's never too late, part 2. Let's look at the function of muscle. The muscles got various different functions. For example, holds the structure of our body together, maintain our posture, allow us to breathe and talk, act as a brake, slow our movements, protein padding if you fall, because you have muscles and you don't feel that much pain, or you don't break your bones. A protein reservoir because it stays there, but if you are starving, that protein can be broken down into basic use of energy. Metabolic regulator, cardiovascular regulation, yes, of course, when you're running, your muscles contract and that push the bloods up. Example, source of heat, yes, it pads around and it provides enough heat and provide our appearance. The muscles are our appearance. If you don't have muscles, I will look like him. So muscles are really important. That's Iron Man. Anyway, lovely. Vo2 Max. This is another exam we do to check the capacity of the muscle to consume oxygen. Again, this is you don't have to concentrate much if you're not medical, but just listen to it so you will understand what I'm trying to say here. VO2 max, the maximum optimum rate at which the heart, lungs and muscles can effectively use oxygen during exercise, used a way of measuring a person's individual aerobic capacity. This declines with age. Factors associated with sarcopenia or muscle loss. Sarcopenia is muscle loss simply. Changes in circulating anabolic hormones such as reduced growth hormone, testosterone, etc. Growth hormone is really important to have all these muscles and all these things, and exactly testosterone. That's why people, when they age, the testosterone level comes down and they lose muscles. Here we go. And the metabolic dysregulation, example, increased O2 species. Again, it's something to do with age and different kinds of O2 oxygen species. They dysregulated. Anabolic resistance to feeding and exercise decrease. Thus again, decreased protein synthesis. That's quite normal if you think with age. Again, protein synthesis, protein production is less. And decreased satellite cell behavior. Satellite cell behavior is something, if you think in a normal sense, these are the cells which propagate new cells. And these cells just go from different places and they settle there and they make their colony. Of course, you have muscles there. So that's how it comes out, satellite cell behavior. That's also decreased with age. Well, then what I'm going to talk about is I'm telling everything is wrong here. With age, you're losing this, you're losing that, you decrease satellite cell, your hormones are bad, that is bad, this is bad. So where are we going to go? But is it too late? Let's look at some other studies. These are really important. Muscle power and function increase with exercise. This is another study. You could see muscle power and function increase with exercise. Endurance training. Endurance training delays age of decline in leg strength and muscle morphology. Let's look at strength training. It is well documented that strength training can reduce muscle atrophy associated with aging. A number of investigations have reported the ability of older men to not only maintain but to increase strength and muscle fiber cross-sectional area consequent to resistant training regimen. Let's look at the mechanism of improvement. Endurance exercise training has been shown to increase the VO of soleus muscle by 20%. The increase could have been caused by either a small increase in all or most of the fibers, or the conversion of few fibers from slow to fast. These are the fibers we talked about, the fast fibers and slow fibers. Fast fibers are type 2, which you need to run fast.
Let's look at old age fiber replacement. Vigorous endurance training in older people where the stimulus is progressively increased elicit proliferation of muscle capillaries and an increase in oxidative enzyme activity and a significant improvement in Vo2 Max. Progressive resistance training in older individuals results in muscle hypertrophy and increased strength if the training stimulus is of sufficient intensity and duration. Is old age an excuse? Since older individuals adapt to resistive and endurance training in similar fashion to young people, the decline in muscle, metabolic, and force producing capacity can no longer be considered as an inevitable consequence of aging process. Rather, the adaptation in skeletal muscle to exercise training may prevent sarcopenia, enhance the ease of carrying out of the activities of daily living, and exert a beneficial effect on such age-associated disease such as type 2 diabetes, coronary artery disease, hypertension, osteoporosis, and obesity. So there is no excuse. Let's look at this bar chart. Here, no motor unit loss in the tibial anterior muscle of master runner who is 65 years old. The dark black one is a young person. He's got about motor units about 150, and a normal old person he has lost here and he's got about 80-85. But if you see the master runner, the cornermost one, the gray, is a 65-year-old who is running, and he's got almost equal number as that young adult. Let's look at this graph here. So does exercise prevent or reverse the effect of aging? On the y-axis you got physiological function, and the x-axis you got age. And this is a normal chart where initially in the young age your ability of exercise and effect which increases, then at middle age it started declining. That's a normal decline. But if the person started training, you could see the arrow where the training starts, then the arrow has been shifted upwards and he get some extra beautiful years where he's got more ability to do more normal stuff. Let's look at the effects of sports on elderly muscle. It is becoming more apparent that skeletal muscle is a tissue that remains responsive to exercise interventions throughout the lifespan. The ability of aged skeletal muscle to respond to exercise, especially resistive exercise, in the same fashion as young muscle suggests the skeletal muscle retains an inherent plasticity not necessarily observed in other aging tissues. Sometimes it's difficult to study muscle function in human because you take repeated biopsy samples, which is very painful. So they used a brown Norway rat, which is long enough to do this study. Here they have divided the rats were randomized into two groups, exercise group and a sedentary group. The 7-week training protocol involves 60 minutes of running the day for 5 days per week, so they have 2 days of rest. Each rat underwent 6 10-minute bout of training, so for 10 minutes for 6 times and 2 minutes break in between for the first 4 weeks. The final segment of the 10-minute session involved increasing the treadmill speed by 1 meter per minute, and if the animal could maintain this higher speed for the first 10 minutes period, it became the starting speed for the next training session. Then the final 3 weeks of the training protocol involved interval training for 3 days a week and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where they have increased the speed of treadmill by 50% for the final minute for each 10 minutes exercise bout. This interval protocol was implemented to increase the training effort among the animal. Then the following completion of training program and 2 days rest, the trained animals were again subject to the treadmill endurance running test to voluntary exhaustion. The animal were given 24-hour rest period to the in situ experiment, and they have done biopsy samples of the muscles. And what they have found is training improved endurance, muscle function and metabolic response in late middle-aged animals. So this is a good example for human as well. It works exactly same in the human. Now let's look at these two samples of muscle. This is an MRI sample of a 74-year-old sedentary man and a 70-year-old triathlon. If you look at the top picture, it's a huge amount of white area. That white area is adipose tissue. That's because of sedentary life, and the muscles are filled up with white area. That's adipose tissue. And if you look at the second picture, the 70-year-old triathlon, it's completely gray. That's all muscles, and you can't see any layer of fat. So if you are exercising, that's what happens. Now what is the difference? Now you see the first sample is a 40-year-old triathlon. It's a thigh muscle, it's a MRI scan. The second one is a 74-year-old sedentary man, and the last one is a 70-year-old triathlon. So if you see the first one, it's completely covered by the gray area. That's all muscles. The second one is inside. You could see the darker area is the muscles and covered by adipose tissue or fat, as they call it. And the last one is a triathlon. A 70-year-old is completely gray. And if you compare the first one and the last one, is exactly same. A 40-year-old man and a 70-year-old man has same amount of muscle.
This program showed with evidence that what happens to exercising muscle with aging. What is our excuse? Is it inability of our body or inability of our mind? Hippocrates once said that which is used develop, that which is not used wastes away. If there is any deficiency in food or exercise, the body will fall sick. He said this 600 before Christ. And I'm going to finish this talk with a speech by George Bernard Shaw. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. Thank you very much for being with us, and of course we will see you in some similar episode. Until then, look after yourselves.